Welcome to Holistic Emails, Email and More, a Q&A with. Every 2 weeks, we showcase a different topic and have a different expert panelist join us. It's definitely not rehearsed, and you guys, the live audience, get to ask us your burning questions about the topic at hand. As you must know by now, I'm Adiola Sol, and I'm a senior consultant at Holistic Email Marketing, and I'm your host and moderator for Email and More. With me today, I have the lovely Kath Pay, who's the CEO of Holistic Email. There she is. I've got Leah Palomba, formerly of eBay. There she is. And Will Devlin of Message Gears. Give us a wave, Will. There he is. Our topic today is email tactics to increase conversions and wish lists. So whilst you're typing your questions into the Q&A area, I'm going to ask the panelists to quickly introduce themselves. So I'm going to pick someone at random. I think I'm going to go for Will. Will, introduce yourself. Come on down.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Will Devlin. I am coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. And I'm the VP of Marketing at Message Gears, which is a customer marketing platform with cross-channel capabilities and audience segmentation tools for really large enterprise brands. So we work with brands like Expedia and OpenTable and Rakuten, and our whole thing is about data access. So our technology works right on top of where existing customer data is, which gives marketers the ability to segment on their complete and live data, everything they know about their customers, without having to wait and sync data back and forth between platforms. I've been in the email space for almost 2 decades, which makes me sad to say, but
you don't look it. No
way. I spent about a decade on the brand side, so I've put fingers on the keyboard for email programs, and I love this industry, and I love learning about what one of the best parts of being on the vendor side is learning what people are doing today to really put the envelope. So.
Wow, Will, you must have had a really cushy 2 decades because you look very young. Did you start when you were
I started young.
15?
Thank you for that.
Amazing. Wow. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Will. And Leah, the lovely Leah, please tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. I'm Leah Palomba. Today, I'm in Italy, even though maybe the light doesn't tell. I can tell maybe it's a bit dark. Well, I come from 10 years spent between eBay and Monster, and right now I'm playing the role of a CMO, CEO for iLex, where that is a fashion startup in the digital fashion space. So a lot of excitement. Of course, my scope of work has a bit changed, but I still have like a beating heart for emails and everything. So it has been so good to be looking at conversions, and I'm thrilled to be sharing topics with you today.
Amazing. Thank you, Leah. And good luck with the CMO role. And last but not least, Kath. And I know most of you know who Kath is, but for those who don't, please, Kath, please introduce yourself.
So I'm CEO of Holistic Email Marketing, and together Adiola, who works with me with Holistic, put together Email and More. And I've been in the industry definitely for over 20 years. So I beat you, Will. And that also means I must be older, because I definitely started it when I wasn't 15.
When you were 10.
Later than 15.
I think she was 10.
Oh my goodness. Yes. So, and you know what? After all these years, I'm still incredibly passionate about email. So, like Leah, I'm kind of like, yes, let's talk about conversions. Let's talk about, what we can be doing to be helping you guys, particularly as the season is coming upon us now.
Yes.
For the peak period, holidays, and all the rest of it. So let's get going.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. All right, so now I'm just going to dive straight into our first question. And please, like always, if you do have a question, feel free to put it into the Q&A box, and I'll make sure I get to it and get my esteemed panelists to answer. So here we go. How important is testing when it comes to increasing conversions and identifying tactics that work? Do you want me to repeat?
No, but I want it.
Okay.
I want it. I'm going to be fighting with Will on this one.
You might have to be fighting Kath as well, because you have the same energy. When Kath sees a question she likes, she's me.
So
yeah, go for it.
Honestly, I think it's vital. I don't even think it's an option. Like the fact is that customers, they change so quickly. So what we think that we know that is going to be great actually it's not necessarily going to work in a matter of just a few months. Yeah. So the test and learn is not only about testing and learning about what is the best practice, but again, even like testing within the same campaign. There are fantastic features that can be rolled out where you test 5 versions to the same audience, and then you try to understand how people are interacting within particular groups, and then repurpose to the similar and the lookalikes. So I find the testing part is something that is going to be vital in increasing conversions and in making sure that you're engaging your public in a way that is really meaningful to them.
Yeah. And I absolutely love what you were saying there, because you were not just limiting the testing to getting the best result for that particular campaign, but you're talking about learning, right? Yeah. And therefore, what can you learn about your customers? You know, who doesn't want to learn about their customers? We all do. And so we can then start to be learning and finding out what makes, and we can be testing within segments as well, right? So your lapsed audience, your new audience, your new customers, all the rest of it. And we can be seeing what is motivating them to actually be doing it. So as far as testing, as far as, you know, conversions and tactics, testing which tactic works and everything, I think testing is absolutely crucial. And I don't think that any tactic really should be implemented blindly without actually having some form of, you know, test in place, whether it be a holdout group to understand whether the actual tactic is working, or whether you're talking about refining and optimizing, and therefore you're doing an A, B, C, D, E, F, you know, split test.
I think the biggest trap that people fall into is thinking that you have to get an immediate result out of that test, you know, thinking very campaign focused on that. So I echo what you guys are saying, and that it is a larger, longer term view of what you're able to learn, and the proper way to communicate, or how your audience prefers you to communicate. So yes, there can be instances where you do an A/B test or a multivariate test or something, and learn something right away, or it has an immediate effect. And, you know, there's obviously tools that say, okay, well, we'll test part of your audience and send the winner to the rest, that kind of thing. But, you know, it really needs to be broader than that. And you really need to think less on how did that test help the campaign, and more about how did the test, what did we learn from that, and what can we use that to increase conversions down the road.
Yeah, and just like a spin-off from that, because I definitely agree with all of you that testing is incredibly important. How long or how many tests do you think is essential? And I know it can vary from business or campaign, but I have been in a few places where they'll do a test maybe once and make a decision based on that and move forward. If it doesn't work, then they can it. If it seems to be doing all right, then they kind of push forward. What would you think is a relatively good sweet spot number or times to look at a test before actually making a conclusive decision? I see so many like, ooh.
I really think it depends on what you're testing. I think if it's something that's very similar, simple, like the way you present an offer, or maybe the color of a button or something like that, then maybe the one instance is enough, or once or twice to get some gather more information. But I think when you're thinking broader on communication preferences and what your audience really responds to, I don't think you can learn that in 1 or 2 or 5. I think you have to go in with the mindset that it's going to be an ongoing process, and you're never going to be finished. You're going to continue to refine that and make it better over time.
Yeah. And I absolutely agree with that. I also think it's a matter about a statistically significant number. It's not only about like time, like you can have 10 variants in the same campaign that maybe goes to 100 people, but before the number becomes significant, maybe you need to send out 5 weeks because you need a bit of time to build on that. So I think that then there is a numerical element to this.
Yeah. And I've heard Kath talks a lot about the statistical significance of a campaign when testing. So I'm sure that's very in line, Kath, with what you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that probably for most A/B split tests, you need to be doing it a minimum of 3 times, because you need to be accounting for or ensuring that there is no anomaly. You know, so hey, you know, who knows if you know, Trump, you know, being well or something, now having recovered or whatever the story is, hadn't somehow affected it, you know, your particular campaign, right? That there are things that happen in the environment that can, or maybe you had a slightly ambiguous, slightly misleading subject line, which you don't normally have, and that actually had a different, you know, sort of effect on your campaign. So I think you need to be doing it at least 3 times. But, you know, what we do at Holistic, we do a lot of automation, so a lot of the life cycle programs and everything. And we like to set up basically 2 streams, permanent streams, so that you're always testing, is exactly like what Will was saying, basically always testing, always refining. You're going to have a hypothesis, and you're going to be testing, you know, hypothesis, and you'll have an A versus a B, and the A is probably going to be your control versus the B, which will be the new variant. And then once you reach that statistical significance, then you're going to go and swap them over, whichever is the winner, create a new hypothesis, start again and everything. And so when you're doing automated, it's not how many, it really is the amount of time. And so you know, so I think that's the main thing, is that, you know, because often when we talk about A/B split testing, we talk really only about campaigns. But if we think about how important lifecycle marketing is for driving conversions and driving revenue and everything like that, we really need to be bringing our thoughts over to testing those programs as well.
Amazing. And this leads very nicely into my next question. So what elements are good to test to increase conversions? What elements? There's no wrong answer.
Almost a pool. We can take them all out. Like there are so many options. I don't know which one to pick. Do I have a top 3? Like,
you can give a top 3.
I could give a top 3.
I feel like there's, like you said, there's so many things. So like, you know, you could look at your subject lines, your CTAs, even time of day or the actual day. There's, I guess it's so wide, but I guess in your experiences working client side and, you know, agency side and so forth, where have you seen the most significance when you're looking at different areas and elements to test?
I think there is a concept that I'm toying with recently. I've been toying with I'm thinking
new concept.
I mean, well, not so new, but I've been thinking quite a bit about how do we deepen the relationship, right? So there are, like, you can also say, like, I have a couple of very strong concepts, so I want to try with half of the subject line on this very strong concept, and I want to try the other half with the other half of the strong concept and see how the combination is working against an age group. Like right now I'm thinking about Generation Z, very hard to get, very hard to interact with. Yes. So subject line, definitely a strong winner. I think there's something about, I think segmentation as well, like in the sense of taking up one audience against another one and looking a bit at your personas.
Yes,
definitely a winner.
Yeah, I don't know if people do that much as well, actually, where they break down the database a little bit more in terms of personas and start testing things to them. I don't see that.
It's hard. Yeah. I mean, that's a hard thing to do. And again, it does require a lot of planning, and sometimes we're overwhelmed and we think we need to do something right now. Like I just need to come up with a test for next week. Instead of thinking really long term and say like, okay, well, what's the best way to do this, and layer in preference data and holdouts of different segments and what time of day works for them and what message. There's a lot that you could test, and it is hard to. I think it's smart to segment, to test by segment, but I think it just is incredibly difficult to do on short notice.
And that raises a really, really good point too. I mean, if you're going to be testing, and you're definitely going to be doing it to be gaining the learnings, and you're going to be putting those learnings out, not just in your email program, but also over to your automated program, also over to your social, also over to your landing pages and your e-commerce site, then the return on investment could very well be there. If you're just doing it for that particular campaign and not going to take the learnings away, well, then maybe it's the return on investment for all the extra work probably won't be there.
Yeah.
But for me, as far as an element goes, I'm a big fan of what Leah was saying. So rather than treat it, let's do a subject line test. Let's do a call to action test. Let's do a first paragraph test. That kind of test, right? I'm more into understanding what makes the audience tick, and therefore understanding what motivates them. And once we're using a hypothesis, which has motivation A versus motivation B, right? Then that means that you can be actually, and I know some people are going to say heresy, but it's not really if you think about it. You can actually be testing simultaneously multiple factors or elements. Your subject line, your call to action, your first paragraph, the offer, the landing page, everything, because they're all supporting the hypothesis. And what you're testing is the hypothesis. You're not testing a subject line. So your hypothesis will not say, I think by having subject line A is going to give us a higher uplift than subject line B, right? That's not the hypothesis. The hypothesis will be loss aversion is going to drive, greater results and revenue than benefits, right? So that's a motivation and everything. And then that means we can have the subject line, the call to action, and all the rest of it following suit, supporting that hypothesis. So when we're talking about getting back on track with which this is all about, tactics and to increase conversions, I think testing using these kind of motivations and understanding what really, really, makes our audience tick, I think that's a great tactic.
Yeah. Kath, you've taken it one step further. Kath is abandon just the ad hoc tests, do a whole hypothesis strategy, and let's get busy. But I do like that. I think it gives you so much more to work with, and it allows you to really play around with what you're doing instead of just looking at subject lines, which sometimes can be quite arbitrary. And I guess, Kath, we've seen in the past where people are trying to test maybe urgency versus kind of just a standard message. The two kind of are quite similar to one another, so then it's not actually a comparative test. So yeah, hypothesis building is so much more better because it's a lot more robust. You get to tweak several things that all work together to prove a result. Leah, was you gonna? I kind of stole the moment there. Sorry.
No. It's great. I think this conversation has been giving me, I was telling you, my brain goes a bit everywhere. I think it's the fact that it takes us away a bit the pressure as well from the marketer, the testing experience. You don't have to get it right from the first campaign that you send out. You don't have to get crazy about figuring out the perfect subject line. If you're not sure, test it, create the infrastructure for yourself to go into a test and learn mode. Because if you're testing, anyway, you're going to get on the other side with a success. even though maybe the subject line was not perfect, something good is going to come. And I think it takes a lot, because marketing can be quite stressful when you have metrics that you need to bring to the business.
Yeah, definitely.
One other thing too on that point a little bit is that there's been, sometimes there's a mistake, and my team even makes this today at Message Gears, is if there doesn't seem to be a statistical significant winner or loser, that there was nothing to learn from that particular test. And I always challenge them. I said, well, I disagree, right? Like, I think if we thought there were two really distinct and different subject lines, for example, and there wasn't a lot of movement on the engagement metrics, there weren't a lot more opens, there weren't a lot more conversions, and you couldn't really tell which one won out. And we multiplied that a couple times and still never figured out what moved the needle. It doesn't mean that we didn't learn anything. What we learned is maybe that doesn't matter, or that particular, what we thought was a big difference wasn't a big difference. So I think it's important to keep your head on straight for that.
That's a good way to look at things, actually, because I think you're right. Many marketers will see like a null result as, okay, fine, it didn't work, can it? We didn't learn anything from it. But you're absolutely right. It could actually be saying that may not be a motivator or a driver or something that you necessarily need to worry about. So how do you build upon that then? I guess building on what Kath says, what makes the audience tick? Because if it's not that, then we know it's something else. So yeah, no, that's a lovely way to sum that up. Does anyone have anything else to add?
Always, but I won't.
Oh my goodness.
Otherwise we'll just turn this into a testing session. So
yeah. And for those that are watching us live, please, if you've got any question, even if you feel like it might not be completely on topic, but it's along the same vein, please feel free to ask your question. The panels are here simply for that as well. So don't be shy, type away. I mean, we're here to help. Okay, so our next question, are all conversions the same? And in brackets, and I think this is Leah's baby, in brackets, looking at sign up versus buy now and organizational goals. So, and I have a feeling we all know the answer to this in terms of are all conversions the same. But Leah, do you want to?
Well, yeah, because I was thinking about it, because sometimes when we speak with internal stakeholders, conversion is a term that is very known to them. So they're like, oh yeah, how were the conversions? And it's a great question, of course. We want to see the numbers. And I think that we needed to give clarity about what are the conversions that we're driving. And the conversion happens on the CTA. So if you have one subject line that goes in one direction, and then you have a CTA that goes into a different direction, the things are not going to match. You're not going to have good results. So I think it's vital that it's very crisp, the conversation that we're having with the customers, so that the CTA and the conversion that CTA is driving is something that is completely understood with the internal stakeholders. Because maybe we can have a conversion that we're saying like, okay, sign up, give us your email address, buy now, take this action, opt in, anything could be. But we really need to have that to manage our internal stakeholders so that conversion doesn't become a cloud that is hiding everything else. I don't know if anyone else has seen it before, but this is something that to me is very close to my heart.
I think, oh, go, Will, yes.
Well, I was just going to say that I think, the conversions can be very, again, transactional and very like, I sent this email out and got this much sales, right? But I think focusing on the longer term vision, like it doesn't, every interaction you have has to necessitate a sale, right? Like you can get somebody to click through and learn something, and that could be a micro conversion. You could get somebody to sign up for a newsletter or something like that. That certainly could be a conversion. But when you think of a longer term strategy for loyalty and bringing customers back, or just a long sales cycle, A conversion doesn't necessarily need to mean they gave me money right then, right? A conversion could be a micro step in that direction. So
Yeah, yeah.
I like that. And I also like the term micro conversion.
I
Nice.
didn't make that up, so I won't
Are you planning on trademarking it? Because I think I like that too.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to trademark it first. So
we know what
Race
you're
you
doing
to
if
it.
you're quiet for a few minutes, okay? Yeah, but I totally agree. So basically, when we're talking about conversions, I think what we need to do as email marketers is start at the beginning, right? What is it that we want to achieve with this particular email or this particular program? So we actually identify our objective with that. That then is going to help us to guide what our subject line is, what our content is, what our call to action is, and also what metric we're going to be measuring. Because I find that there's a huge disparity between sometimes what the objective is, what the call to action is, and then what metric is being measured. And there's like, it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, what are you doing? You're measuring the wrong thing in the first place. So that everything mapping back to that objective is going to give you clarity as to whether everything that you're doing is right. And also it just keeps you focused. And I think that often doesn't happen. And the reason why it often doesn't happen is because we as email marketers tend to be overworked, under-resourced, and so we're just churning everything out. But if you seriously, that whole working out that, what is our objective? Write it down. I'm a huge advocate for writing things down too, because I think they tend to stick, and it helps rather than it just sticking in your mind. I think that sort of, I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely feel like building on what Will said, there are different types of conversions, and there's micro conversions. Gonna steal that one, because yes, not everything is a sale. And I guess, like Leah said, a sign up is definitely just more about leads and capturing as many people as possible, whether credible or not, versus a more hard-hitting conversion of buy now or look now or whatever that can be, and that will definitely lead into more revenue. So I think all three of you have added very good substance to that question, and just making sure that whatever your tactic is, that you're looking at the right KPIs to understand what it is that your end game is at the end. So yeah, perfect. Okay, and I guess, Kath, you kind of touched upon this in your just recently. So what's the best metric to use when you're looking at measuring success when it comes to conversions? And I guess it definitely depends on what the objective is at the end of the day. So it can vary. But if we were to give quite top line or an example, what would you feel are the best metrics to look at? Let's say if the conversion was to build your email list before Black Friday. Okay, there's a scenario. We're building our email list before Black Friday. We've got to get as many people as possible. What we looking at? What's our KPIs? Go.
So you're talking about building your customer list. You're talking about building your prospect list, because
sorry, Kath. Okay.
So precise. You have to write it down.
Drill it down. I didn't write it down. Sorry. Let's say we're building our prospect list, because you want to acquire as many people before this big Black Friday. So your existing customers already know that something's afoot, but we want to get new people. So what are actually both? Let's do the two. Yeah, let's have some fun. So prospects and building customer base.
Okay, so to me, they're two totally different things. So prospects means that you're doing something on the website, right? So you're driving, maybe increasing your PPC, budget, because you're wanting to get more and more prospects to come to the site. Then, of course, you're going to have some great data capture points, whether it's overlays or popovers, things like that. some great offers, you know, sign up, very, very clear, above the fold, blah, 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 everything like that. Everything is very much, we're getting these people, and all we want them to do, we don't want them to buy. We want them to sign up. And that's really clear. You can even do that on your PPC ads. Sign up and get 10% off. You're not even talking about buying. You're just telling them to do it. So that's one thing. And so, of course, then the metric to be measuring there is definitely new prospects. How many have you doubled? Have you quadrupled? You know, that kind of thing. For customers, that generally means that it will be a bit of a combination of that. You will get some new customers, certainly during peak season. You know, people tend to come to sites, but you will also be converting some of your existing prospects because this is a good time. They've signed up, they liked what you had to offer, but they haven't had a need until now. And you've got some great offers and they've got needs because they've got relatives and all that kind of stuff. And then the conversions happen. And so I've just said then conversions. So to me, conversions, and simultaneously, it would also be growth in your customer database as well. That's for me.
Yeah, I mean, the acquisition piece is key, and I think you hit on several different tactics. And I think for different brands, you know, different sectors, retail or travel, I mean, there's other ways you can get customers outside of the website to sign up and to grow that list, right? You can text to offer type thing, you know, text to get a discount, and then you add them to the database. You can have a loyalty program that you have people sign up for at checkout. You can have signage around stores. There's different ways and tactics to get people to incentivize people to give you that information, and that helps build the list. And then, of course, the converting, after the acquiring, the converting them and retaining them, they're two different motions than the acquisition piece. So I think it's a lot of people focus on the acquisition of like, I got to build my list. My list needs to grow. All my executives care about is a bigger number there.
Yeah.
But your value and where you're really going to make money is getting those people to buy, and to buy not just once, but more and more and more.
Repeated. Yeah, definitely.
I think there is as well a moment of organizational life that is going to go, and it's going to require one thing against the other. So most of the organizations, they're working very much on the top of the funnel at the very early stages, and then they're moving down as the time goes by. So I think it as well, it depends, is it a mature activity? It's not a mature activity. What are we working on? Clear that if, to be honest, everything Kat said, I did put it down on my note that is right behind the micro conversion and trademark, because I thought it was so well structured. I thought it was so well structured. I mean, I think it's a great answer. I wish it was mine.
That's too funny.
Gosh, okay. We'll have to make sure I open up a second tab real soon to trademark that word. Will's unbothered. I bet it's because he secretly trademarked it, so he's just.
I went ahead of you guys.
Yeah. But I guess one thing that had come to mind when we were talking about conversions in terms of acquisition is when we're involving different channels. It's very good to make sure that we get those other channels on board and make sure that they're measuring the right things. You know, PPC can get quite pricey at times. So it's, again, making sure we're leveraging their resources, budgets, and so forth, and then making sure it's attributed to, you know, what CRM or email marketing is doing, ensuring that there's some form of cohesion there. Because I know sometimes it can be quite hard to link with the digital teams, especially when a prime real estate is more for signing up rather than direct sales. But yeah, I guess that's something that each business can figure out closer to the time when they need to start gearing up for the festivities ahead. But that was really good, everyone. Thank you. So again, anyone that's, for those that are live, please, again, feel free to ask your questions. I do have so much more to run through, but if you feel like interjecting with a question, then just fire it away, no problem. Okay, so next one. Incentives are a way to increase conversions. I can see Leah's eyes just like, so incentives are a way to increase conversions, but they reduce revenue and AOV. So what do we think about the use of incentives when we're trying to look at increasing those conversions? What are your thoughts on that? And maybe when and how do you feel it's best used?
Yeah, actually, I would love to give like my 2 cents on that one. We use incentives at different times, right? Right now, in a new joiner program or an onboarding program, incentives are almost standard, so they're almost expected. And I think that tons of people, they just give their email address because they know that they're going to get an email after, and at some point to give it 48 hours, give it 3 days, they're going to get something.
Yes.
So I think at very early stages, I think it was really cool because it was triggering that social norm about reciprocity. Oh, I'm surprised you gave me a voucher. Oh, let me give you my money now. Yes. So I think it was really great. It doesn't work as it used to anymore because that conversion is expected. So I think they're very strong if your strategy does not support a one and done. Because what you run the risk of having at the end of the day on your database is going to be 10 times lea.palomba@gmail@hotmail@yahoo @everything, because every time I get a coupon. And I think, and it's honestly, I've seen it. That's why I'm mentioning. You've done it. You see, we're all guilty of knowing the game.
Yeah, there's the Gmail hack. Do you know the Gmail hack?
The plus sign.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Now that you mention it, I completely forgot about that. How could I?
But continue.
So that's why I have my feelings about incentives at the moment. They're a bit mixed because I think that on that side they got super standard, and I think that the part as well that I'm quite curious is about how do they join together with maybe another loyalty program where you have points. So you start to get into this place where you have a certain percentage of discount, and then there is an extra add-on that is on loyalty, and altogether you kind of need to have a really long-term view to say, okay, this thing is really going to be economically meaningful when the person reaches that amount.
Right. So you're now more. So is it right in saying that you're probably more gearing towards building incentives based on behavior? So
I would reward that.
A reward. Yeah, that sounds kind of like.
I think the risk is pretty big, simply because everyone is doing it, and because everyone is doing it, you need to find a way to be reflective of your customer needs without really jeopardizing your business.
Yeah. And that really means, if your USP is that you are just perpetually, slashing the prices, and you are therefore conditioning your audience that's what, to go to you for that reason, well, then that's fine. That's your business model, right?
Yeah.
You only have a problem if you decide to backtrack and say, oh, we don't want to do this anymore. Then you have got a big problem. And I've worked with a few clients that have done that. And it's not easy to uncondition them, to do it. So, but as far as everything else goes, I think as long as you have got your USP. So if your USP, say if you're a retailer, you've got really funky, unique clothes you can't get anywhere else, right? Then you don't need to do that discount, because they've got motivation, they've got reason enough for signing up to you and for buying from you, because that's it. If they want your clothes, they need to buy it from you. That's not the case with most of us, though, is it? The case with most of us is that other people sell products like ours or similar to ours or even the same ones. And that's when you have to, it all comes down to understanding what your business model is, what the viability is, understanding that people do get conditioned. As you have said, Leah, in general, we are, as consumers, we are conditioned to certainly be expecting. I mean, I will, if I sign up to a retail site and they don't offer me a discount on my first purchase, I'm like, what? You know, that's my attitude. Instead of being, oh, wonderful and grateful and everything, I'm the exact opposite if they don't do it, because my expectation is that they should.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's tough out there. Whereas, like you said, a couple of years ago, you know, those that offered it, that was unusual, and so it was special. Now
Yeah.
it's the norm.
I think there's things that you condition your own audience, and that's part of the branding thing. Like when I ran email for a company called Gander Mountain, which was a outdoors retailer, so hunting and fishing and camping equipment, we would almost every other week do some sort of a promotion. And so we would have, you know, emails twice a week, and every other week those emails would contain some sort of a blanket discount. And so then the emails in between, over time, we had conditioned our audience to be like, okay, well, there's no blanket discount this week. I'm just going to wait. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing, you know. So there's what you condition your audience for, and then there's also the market conditions that, you know,
Yes.
alter expectations. Like you mentioned, everybody now, you know, signs up for a email program because they know they're going to get some sort of coupon, or maybe they abandon their cart because they know that, you know, in a day or two they're going to get some sort of an incentive to finish the purchase.
Yeah.
Free shipping is kind of the norm nowadays for a lot of brands, at least here in the US. Whereas, I mean, five, certainly 10 years ago, that was just, you know, it was just a
Yeah.
cost to pay. So I think there's, you know, it just, you have to be tactful about when to utilize promotions, not to condition your audience. I do like the incentive based, you know, work towards getting this thing, whether it's, you know, X number of purchases or X number of points, it gets you a discount. I think
Yeah.
that's the way it's,
Yeah.
you know, most people are conditioned now. I think, who knows in 5 years from now if everybody, you know, will just be on to something else. But certainly you have to be careful about how to do that.
Yeah, and I think just real quick, building on what you all have said, there's a bank in the UK called Barclays Bank, and a few years ago, I feel like this is maybe about 3-4 years ago, they did an advert, and it was called it was based on a scheme called Digital Eagles, and it was to kind of educate their customers on how to shop. Yeah, how to shop savvy online. And they told them about the abandoned baskets. They told them about waiting for a promotion when they sign up. They told them everything. And I was so angry. I was.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
No.
So they gave away all of the marketing secrets. And I remember thinking, okay, how do we leverage this now moving forward? Because everyone nationwide, because it was on telly, has been told basically what to do in order to get an incentive from a retailer. And my mind just started racing. Okay, now how can we build upon this? Because now people are aware. They're aware that they don't have to convert straight away. They can hold back, and eventually an offer will come. So, you know, society has now kind of conditioned people to wait for that gem, wait for that discount. So that's why I think actually having a form of incentive or a loyalty is actually a nice route to go down, because it keeps the customer engaged and it gives them a reason to keep on shopping because there are perks added at the end. And I definitely feel like that does win when someone has a good loyalty scheme in place. You also are so much more generous with when you incentivize, because you don't always have to wait for that person to hit a milestone. There could be, you know, certain days, 10% off days or free shipping days and so forth. So you're so much more frivolous with it because, you know, they're loyal. So yeah, there's so much in terms of, you know, conversions and incentives, what's right, what's not right, when to do it, when not to do it. It's
And I mean,
whole field.
Talking about that Barclays ad and everything, I used to teach on that. I'd show that ad to the class. And then, and at that time, I was working very closely with an abandoned cart provider, and which we found to be quite, so like, what they're giving the secret away. And but so that actually drove us to doing some data mining and actually looking at some analysis. And we found that in the majority of the cases, you actually were better off not having an incentive in the third one anyhow. So we kind of went, okay, we're okay, you know, and that's what we started telling all of our customers or their customers, and so on. So again, it's a kind of there's a lot of things that you do that you assume. You go, oh, everyone seems to have an offer on the third, you know, email in the series of the abandoned cart series, so we should do the same. And you just blindly follow suit, without actually going and doing your own analysis. Have your holdout group, right? See if they come back, if they actually do it. See if they, you know, if they need the incentive or not. And then actually go and keep a record of everything. Do your analysis, and you might find out that you're actually going to make as many conversions. And you know,
no, definitely
testing. To test everything.
Yes,
exactly.
Actually, I was thinking just quickly, this is a little side topic. Will, when you and I first started in the industry, for you to get a newsletter, you used to have to pay for it. Do you? So now the brands have to pay them, you know, the consumers, to get on board. Whereas back in the old day, right at the very beginning, it was like you would actually pay money to to receive a newsletter.
No way.
Yes, way.
What? No. How does
How
that even
good? Must have been an amazing one.
How does that even work?
It was more B2B rather than B2C. So if you were,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm so glad it's free because I'm signed up to so many.
They're checking out the competition. It's like, oh, I like this thing.
Yeah, well, I'm just constantly shopping. I have a problem, so it's
we'll talk together.
yes, great.
Admitting it is the first step. So
thank you everybody.
Share our grief.
Thank you. Humble. Okay, so lovely jubbly. Right, so next one. Oh, okay, we've got some time. Right, so what are your top 3 recommendations on how to reduce the dropout rate? So, you know, when it comes to I guess it's the process in terms of when you're, let's say, trying to get the sign up or to get that conversion. What types of frictions would you say, let's kind of get rid of that so that we can make sure that people get to the end goal?
Yeah.
Will, Will wants to jump in.
I'm sorry.
Me too. So let's do it.
Will, get in quick. Don't let the women overpower you.
I think, you know, sometimes we're marketers, we get in our own way. And so I don't know if I have to have top 3 or whatever, but I do think that occasionally, like if somebody doesn't take an action we want them to do it right away, then we tend to just hammer it home, right? We try to force them down that path, and we, you know, or maybe I'm thinking of like less in email example, but more of like a website. One of the things
no, it's good.
Gander Mountain we were doing was the email would drive somebody to the website. You'd have somebody with, you know, shopping, and they might add a few things to their cart, and then we would keep trying to pop up in front of them with upsell opportunities, or do this thing, or buy this extra thing, or whatever, and trying to increase the cart value and the order value before the order was even placed. And I think, you know, we learned that sometimes we were getting in the way. And it wasn't necessarily we were turning people off. It was that we were distracting them from their goal, which was, I wanted to buy this one thing because you promoted it, and now I got sidetracked, and people's attention.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years is that you just sometimes just let things play out, and it goes back to the learning about your audience, learning that they're not going to always do what you want them to do at the exact time. It's sort of learning and then guiding them there, but not getting in the way. And so when we at Gander remove distractions, and I think about like a supermarket, you're pulling the cart into the checkout lane. Okay, great. Like, get out of the way, let them put the items on the belt and check out and give you the money, versus it's almost like sometimes I feel like marketers pull somebody's cart out of the checkout lane and say, well, you might like this other thing down this aisle. They're at the point where they're getting the money out of their pocket. Let's finish the process.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, for me, it's a case of, which is what we do in our holistic audits, is we look at the website, we look at in particular if it's an e-commerce or a site, we look at what that process looks like, and if there are ways that it can actually be optimized. Sometimes it's little things, sometimes it's actually how they're wording, sometimes it's that they're asking too much, sometimes that there's an extra step, an erroneous step that really shouldn't be there, that they could, if they got rid of, that would help a lot. Because think about it, each step that you add gives them an opportunity to jump off. Yeah, that's really what it's all about. Definitely. So trying to make that actual, because once they've left the email, that's now up to the website or the landing page, and it's absolutely crucial. And I think when it comes time for the holiday season, you've got a totally different, you've got different things. You've got the audience there that the consumers are going, oh, wait, so I've got 3 websites open. They've got, similar products. Does this one have free shipping? What does that one do? And everything. So, it's a different mindset altogether. They're trying to get the best deal. They mightn't have bought from you in the first place. If you're asking too much and your competitor has actually got a more fluent,
like a guest checkout.
Yeah, if there's a guest checkout, all of those kind of things can make a huge difference. And I do agree with what Will's saying. Sometimes we can sort of get in the way. For me, I think it's really about being as helpful and simplifying things as much as possible. If at the end they decide to abandon, that's when you come on in. And you can offer, hey, can we save your items to a cart and send you an email with the information? So that's helpful. That's nice. But you're leaving them to do everything until that point. So yeah, for me, it's more of a case of website optimization, and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Go through, and I think too, as email marketers, I think we get this right. We tend to, you're laughing at me, aren't you, Andy? We tend to be very focused on the email, and we forget that our conversions are completely and utterly reliant upon the website.
Yes.
Right? So therefore we need to, same as we're auditing our sign-up process, same as we audit regularly our unsubscribe processes, same as we need to be auditing that purchase process and making sure that everything is good, and bring it up to the team if it's not, and ask them, hey, we want to work with you because it behooves us to make sure that this is a seamless journey, as well as you guys are going to benefit, so let's work together.
I really like that. And it makes, and it actually goes back to my answer as well, because besides the distraction, when you get an email, it's like, participate to this survey. It's just going to take a couple of minutes. And then after 15 minutes, you still have tons of things to answer. Like that part about the experience, it absolutely resonates with this. And I think it's very valuable to tell people where they are in their action.
Yeah.
Like it's not only like an action, it's like, okay, it's an easy step, 1 step of 2. It's 10 questions, so you know what's happening, because
Yes.
otherwise you
Setting the
can get really turn.
Set
Yeah.
expectations. Yeah, absolutely
Yes.
crucial.
I agree.
I think that there is another one of the concepts that I'm thinking about is about the abandoned cart, that very often it's just an abandoned cart. It's just a list of things that you have been looking at. And I think there is more that can be done there, but I haven't explored it yet, like making it more about an experience. Like it doesn't have to be like just, oh, you saw this cup and you saw this light and you saw this nail polish. It could actually become a bit more interesting. Like include reviews, include something else,
Bring in
like
some content.
Change the pictures to something that is a bit more engaging. I think there is a world of opportunities in the abandoned cart, and that's probably why it's one of the so important emails that we have in the full process.
I think on that note, I mean, I think Kath mentioned it too. We tend to think, if you're in email marketing, you tend to think very channel specific, and perhaps somebody abandoned a cart because they wanted to price shop, and then they're going into your physical store location to finish the purchase or something, right?
Yeah.
Right. And if you don't have a connected view of your customer across the whole org,
yeah,
you send this email saying, why didn't you buy this thing, when they did buy it, right?
Yeah.
And I think
yes.
that's back to the thing Kath was saying about us being very channel centric, is there has to be this movement, and everybody has to be on board of being more customer centric, because we think in terms of, I'm on the email team, this person's on the mobile team, this person's on this person.
Everything is in silos.
Yeah, and part of that is just because that's where our specialties are, it's where technologies, how it's bought, but customers don't care about any of that. Like we as consumers don't think of, oh, the email team at this brand sent me that, and you just think this brand sent me that. And so if I complete a purchase in store, or if I call a phone number and do it over the phone, like there just needs to be some sort of a consistent experience there. And I think we tend to lose sight of that sometimes.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I agree. And it's quite hard to join everything up together to make sure that if a trigger has already been sent, for it to not send the reminder if an action has been taken, somewhere else that's offline. It's hard to join it up, but it's like a utopia. It's kind of like what the grand vision of marketing and selling should look like, where everything is completely holistic and all joined up together. But this was a lovely, lovely, lovely way to end it on a very great note, because sadly we're out of time. Like the hour has gone just like that. I want to thank everyone who has attended this event live, and also thank you to those that will be watching it in the future on demand. And I really hope that you found this useful and insightful, as well as beneficial. And of course, I want to thank the amazing speakers for sharing their experiences and expertise with us. So thank you so much, guys. And as you always, please, please, please leave feedback, because we really love to know how we're doing and what we can improve on, so that we can keep on bringing you these quality online events and webinars. So I just want to say a massive thank you again, and thank you to our wonderful panelists. And I hope you all have a lovely evening or day, wherever you are in this wonderful world. And we'll see you again in the next 2 weeks. Bye.
Thank you.